Hey everyone, once again, another feminist SJW cult-like personality from the CBC, aka Anna Maria Tremonti, let her authoritarian mindset go on partial display in this particular article and in this particular audio segment that I'll be playing for you shortly. But wow, folks, like I say, I keep trying to point this stuff out to the folks of Canada. You know, whether you're a man or woman, you know, whether you're an adult or a child, this kind of stuff, it's going to affect you at some point, at some stage of the game. So you really should start paying attention. And, you know, you can run to your ideological corner or to your prospective tribe if you choose to do so. But in the end, you're going to recognize at some stage, at some point, that you have no capacity, you have no ability to impose your preferences and your ideology on your opponents. And when you get that concept or that pretense jammed in your head long enough, and you may subsequently think that you can, well, the minute you try to do it, that's when you see that, the opposition that I didn't see before, well, there it is. It raises and rears its ugly head. Now, people, for the most part, are live and let live. Just by sheer fact that most people try to avoid not just controversy, but conflict in their personal lives, whether it's social, economic, or political. But the minute you try to push the goalposts in one way or the other, in one direction or the other, once you go too far, it's the thing that these SJWs are seeing nowadays, and these feminists, like, oh shit, we've pushed so far, now we're getting all this retaliatory effects and pushback. And they're all shocked and outraged and saying, oh, what's going on? Oh, now they're looking to oppress us. No. It's that you're trying to oppress them, and now they're standing up in opposition to your attempts to do your own form of oppression. People will always do that, whether you're from the left or right or anywhere on the political or ideological spectrum. The minute anyone tries to impose their edicts, their preferences, or their opinions on you, well, you're going to see people that are on the other side of that equation. Shocker! They're going to want to defend themselves against oppression, right? SJWs, feminists, they got this little list where it's like, there's only these people that can be oppressed, and if you don't fit these categories, well, the other side of that coin is you're the oppressor. But then there's the people that are on the other side of that coin are saying, wait a minute, I've never oppressed no one. Matter of fact, I feel quite oppressed myself. Once again, so the pushback's going to come. Whether you like it, whether you want to accept it, whether you want to close your eyes or plug your ears, reality is going to play out and it's going to unfold. I know that's a shocking revelation for some, but it's just reality, folks. Headline. Like I say, it's the current Anna Maria Tremonti. Justice can wait. Listen to that. Just that alone. Justice can wait. Advocate says leniency for convicted sex offenders ignores victim rights. Now, before I go into the article, it's like, well, what's a sex offender? Decades ago, we used to understand that it meant someone that imposed themselves on someone else physically, right? It never encompassed or entailed someone that said, hey, sexy lady, or cat calls or whistles or... Everyone understood that that's not sexual assault or sexual violence. If you're complimented, now, that's the thing. It's all subjective, right? So if a man compliments you or says something of a sexual nature, if they're a hot dude, you probably wouldn't have a problem. Be like, ooh, look at that. I feel great. But if they're ugly, you might think, well, I don't want to get any attention from this piece of shit. But once again, let's try to use some universally consistent principles when we're dealing with each other, right? I mean, you can have your own personal preferences and opinions, but when it comes to legality or morality, we got to at least be somewhat objective and consistent, right? Anyway, I'll just read a little bit from this article, but the most important aspect of this whole article or audio segment is literally the audio segment towards the end. And it was something that Anna Maria herself espoused that I found wickedly disturbing and controversial to the nth degree. And as a subsequent follow-up comment that the guys that she had on this program, once again, like, holy shit, what she must look to, who are the most weak men on the planet that I can interview that will at least somewhat align with me and be obedient and conformist to the kind of pretense or narrative that I want to put forth and present. Because when I listen to this audio segment in particular, it's like, could you imagine if I was on the other side of that conversation? Could you imagine Anna Maria trying to control or dominate that conversation with me involved? And then it made me realize, no wonder that these SJW, these feminist types, never want to have anyone like myself in there to talk to or converse or discuss these kind of topics. Because I would push back so hardcore against her bullshit rhetoric and ideology, she'd probably be fucking spinning in her head and I mean, she'd probably have to go home and get fucking drunk or down a bottle of pills just to recover from the fact that I was a man that didn't conform to her bullshit feminist ideology and wasn't willing to tuck my tail between my legs and just go along to get along because, I don't know, what? I'm scared to challenge her fucking narratives. These guys seemed like they were a little bit quite scared of Anna Maria and more than willing to tuck their tails between the legs. But hey, not all men are created equal, right? In 3 recent Canadian criminal cases, the justice system has been under fire for being too accommodating when sentencing young white men convicted of sexual violence against women. Last week, 21-year-old Connor Nuratur was convicted of sexual interference with a 13-year-old girl and sentenced to 3 months in jail. So do we know the full details of that? Not necessarily, right? What does that even mean, sexual interference? What did he do? What are the details of the case? That would be a pertinent aspect or part of any equation or dialogue going forward. The judge delayed sentencing until May so Nuratur could finish his school year at the University of Calgary, a decision the victim's mother called unjust. And she's not alone in her reaction to this accommodation. A petition signed by over 33,000 people, a number that keeps climbing, has called on the university to expel the convicted sex offender. So, and if you listen to Anna Maria, and I'll play it shortly, but they're all about, what they really want to do, these SJW, these feminists, these authoritarian types, if they had, Anna Maria's thing would be, if I could be queen for the day, she would want them expelled from the fucking country. So, like I say, mob justice, right? Just pure authoritarianism. What, Anna Maria? Are you going to present that we should all throw these guys into ovens, right? Or maybe gas them, or have a firing squad, kill them all and be done with it, and then we don't have to worry about them going forward, right? That deals with that problem, right? Well, yes, for authoritarians, hey, that mentality, hey, that is the lazy, seamless, easy way out, isn't it, right? Don't deal with your opponents or people that you disagree with or people that you might see as, criminal or perceive as being criminal in nature, regardless of what the actual facts or premises or that would suggest as such. I mean, shocker, Anna Maria, we have this thing called the legal/judicial system, which is supposed to be all about, presumption of innocence. It's taken like 800 years, Anna Maria, like roughly in around 8 centuries of people a whole lot fucking smarter than you that have come to the determination that, yeah, we should do all these things, the presumption of innocence and leniency and judging each case by the pertinent points and nature, gravity, and empirical facts of any given case. That's something that, like I say, it's taken 8 centuries, but people like Anna Maria are like, fuck all that bullshit, man. Now let's just run rickshot all of these dipshits and, hey, hoorah, right? Fuck how many people have to be killed or oppressed in our pursuit for our social justice. Wow. I mean, what happens? What do you want to do to these people? Like other than like expelling them from the entire country and saying, get the fuck out of here, being a pure full-on authoritarian, like the couple of the gentlemen, although they subtly tried to suggest, but like I said, they were trying to do it with their tails tucked halfway between their legs. But it's like, well, what do you do with people in society, right? Do we really want to, have mass graves dotted in the landscape for all the people that did something that was against the preference or edicts or opinions of our central planning, ideologically driven masters. Shouldn't we kind of err on the side of being reasonable? A little bit cautious in our approach. Anna Marie's like, fuck that shit. Fuck all these men. I really firmly believe that Canada would be a much better country if a good man out there just gave Anna Maria some good cock. Now, voluntarily, right? Not raping, but just, kind of romanticized and cozied up to Anna Maria enough, and she took a liking to this person enough where he just give her some good fucking firm cock, right? Let her vent some of her sexual frustration that she apparently has. Anyways, I'm going to get into this audio portion because, like I say, wait till you hear this shit, folks. A little bit disturbing, although it really does delve into the psychology of this feminazi, authoritarian SJW, and where she is, where she's at in her psychology.
Okay, but we are at a moment of the Me Too movement. Michael Sprout, we're seeing this petition calling for Conor Neurodder's expulsion from the University of Calgary. It's got tens of thousands of signatures on it already. What role does public outrage play?
Well, we've definitely seen over the last decade that sort of individual and extreme cases have driven our criminal justice policy, and that's led to unconstitutional laws that have been struck down. And if we look back in history, we've also seen occasions where, public sentiment has resulted in arguably poor policy choices, and you can go back as far as the Opium Act of the early 1900s, and there's certainly echoes of racism in the genesis of some of our drug laws. And that's not to say that we shouldn't consider changes in public attitude and sort of the modernization of how we look at very complex issues. But we always have to be careful that we're not undercutting some of the very important principles. And I don't think anyone here is advocating for that. But when we're looking at changes, we have to make sure that proof beyond a reasonable doubt, the presumption of innocence, the onus on the state to prove someone's guilt, the right to silence, that we don't erode those, because that can lead to wrongful convictions, and that can lead to regret in the future.
Well, Jonathan Rudin, what do you think? What role does public outrage play in some of this right now?
I think the difficulty is that we have to realize that sometimes people commit crimes, but we have to let them do their sentence and then get on with their lives. One of the difficulties now is people get criminal convictions and they can never work. Again, if you have privilege, you may be able to get a job. But for a lot of people, if you have a sexual assault conviction of whatever sort, you'll never be able to get a job ever working in any social service field. And so these sentences, which seem sometimes too lenient, there are other aspects to them that have permanent aspects to them, and we don't think about some of those things. And so I think
what about the victims of sexual assault? Does that mean what? That if you're a young man and you sexually assault a teenage girl, that's okay? They're fair game because it might hurt your future otherwise? What are we saying?
No, I think what we're saying is if you victimize a girl and you have actually taken a program and things have changed and you've understood what you've done, then at some point we will let you back participating in society. But again, to get back to the point I made earlier, the issue is, apart from whatever happens to that individual, to the offender, we need to provide services to victims from the outset, because they're dealing with all sorts of trauma. If it takes 2 years for a case to resolve, what are we doing for the victims over those 2 years? We need to have services for them, and we need to start doing that right away.
Barb McQuarrie, what do you think about public outrage and what we need to do? We need to change something. Is there a danger in changing something?
I think the public outrage is a reflection of a shift in norms and values in the way we're actually viewing sexual violence and violence against women more broadly. I think it's a really important shift. I think that our criminal justice system, we can all agree it hasn't been great at dealing with these issues. And so I don't think that we can come up with quick and pat answers about what should change. And we don't want to compromise principles of justice, and we don't want to undermine our judicial system. At the same time, when we look at the reality of women who go there after they've experienced crimes of violence, the experience is across the board is difficult and often re-victimizing. So things do need to change.
Can I just ask, why wouldn't we want to change a judicial system that was created by elite white men at a time when women were not valued and arguably when women were seen as chattel? Why wouldn't we want to change that system?
I'm not saying we don't want to change the system. I say we want to be careful about some of those principles that we have of, guilty beyond a reasonable doubt, of just fair, everybody being treated with fairness and justice, and actually the purpose of somebody being in that system to be rehabilitation and not just punishment. We can't just throw people off the island. We can't just say, well, you're no longer part of a community, because most people do come out of jail at the other end. So that is important, but we're not doing it right. We need to make changes. We need to balance the rights of victims in a way that we haven't. We need to understand what are the biases in all of our processes, right from the time a charge is laid right up until a conviction is delivered. How are we seeing and how are we understanding crimes of violence against women? But I think that's a really long.
So, as you're listening to just that, was it probably played a bit of a 5-minute segment of the audio portion, and this is just the end of the 23 and a half minute audio segment. Like I say, I'll place a link to the entire audio segment in the video description below. But listen to Anna Maria. She wants that pitchfork mob mentality, that mob justice. Let's just fuck these men up, right? And even some of the people that she brought onto her program, based on hearing the kind of bullshit pretense authoritarian mentality that she put forth and presented, they were like, whoa, even none of us want to go that far, Anna Maria. We're like, every one of them, the two guys and this lady even said, "Ooh, okay, you're going a little bit too crazy there, Anna Maria," without using those exact words or expressing that particular opinion precisely. But I mean, listen to how they're reacting to Anna Maria's pretense of, well, how should mob mentality enter the equation? Should we grab our pitchforks and start burning these fuckers at the stake, right? And then the rest of them are all like, well, that seems a little bit overbearing, a little bit authoritarian there, Anna Maria. You might want to backtrack or back down just a little bit. But like I say, this is a woman that lives off of the forced wealth or income redistribution model. Her paycheck comes as a direct consequence and result of stealing from people, right? Because, I mean, most people, well, I mean, maybe some would, right? Like, if feminists want to support Anna Maria, that's fine. Just go ahead and do it. That's if it's a voluntary exchange, have at it. But why the fuck does people like me that can't stand anything that Anna Maria stands for, why am I forced to pay for her bullshit? Could you imagine anything in the private sector where you're forced to pay for something that you loathe, detest, or have absolute disdain for? That could never happen. Well, that's forced subjugation. That's slavery. Well, that is government. That is the CBC, right? They're all about promoting that shit, except for the people that they want to carry favor for, or except for the people that are part of their particular community, part of their ideology, part of their gang. Wow. Some crazy shit, folks. Just wanted to share it with you. It's Canadian Libertarian, and I love liberty.